Greetings at Cheating Story Lab. After watching, feel free to pass on this tale as it might resonate with someone. Earlier, I held the view that marriage symbolized partnership. However, my experience now suggests it can be a facade for some, a stage for others to enact their escape. My name is Gerald, aged 42, a senior systems analyst for a healthcare consortium. Until 8 months passed, I considered my life well structured. A marriage of 20 years with Brooke, a personal trainer who established her own fitness boutique. We resided in a comfortable suburb, drove 2 cars without debt, and believed we shared mutual admiration. At 11:47 p.m. on a Thursday, I was concluding an essential system upgrade at the office, one of those vital overnight updates that couldn't be delayed. Suddenly, my phone vibrated with Brooke's message. "I am a free woman." I scrutinized the screen. Earlier that day, we had quarreled about her spending. She aimed to take out $12,000 from our shared savings account, claiming it was for studio equipment upgrades. I requested the quotes beforehand, which she perceived as controlling. Since then, her voicemail picked up my calls, and I sent 3 texts seeking clarification, but received no response. At 12:30 a.m., I returned home to find her car absent, the house dim except for the kitchen light left on, with an envelope bearing my name and her handwriting on the counter. Inside was a solitary bank statement of our joint account showing a balance of $340, down from $47,340 the previous week. All withdrawals over the past 6 weeks bore Brooke's digital signature, timed perfectly with days I was away for work or delayed at meetings. The final withdrawal, $11,800, had been made that afternoon at 3:47 p.m. The transaction description read, "Wire transfer to Coastal Dreams Realty, LLC." I stayed seated at the kitchen table past 1:00 a.m., mulling over different scenarios, studio gear, the unexpected $11,000 figure, and the puzzling connection to a real estate firm. Then it struck me, 3 months ago, Brooke had prompted me to alter my employer's life insurance beneficiary details, a routine task we'd intended to address in our documents. However, she'd also inquired about my health insurance policy, focusing on whether I could terminate a dependent without their consent. At the time, I assumed she was discussing adding someone else, perhaps her mother, for some unknown reason. I affirmed that as the main policyholder, I could modify dependent details via the online platform. She acknowledged and shifted the conversation topic. I booted up my computer, accessed the benefits site, scrutinized our coverage. Brooke was listed as my dependent, a status she'd held for 19 years. She had opted out of purchasing her own insurance when she started her business because mine was adequate and free. For 11 minutes, I remained fixed on that screen. At precisely 1:11 am, I clicked Remove Dependent, verified the action, and the system updated instantly, effective date at midnight that same day. I didn't remove her out of spite. I did it because the text, "My free woman," in conjunction with a dwindling bank account and a real estate wire transfer, made one thing clear. She was departing, and if she was leaving, she no longer required my insurance coverage. I retired for the night, slept little, and at 6:43 am, an unknown number called me, asking, "Is this Gerald Whitmore?" At Oakmont Memorial Hospital, your wife arrived in our emergency room at 5:20 am with a suspected dislocated shoulder and possible rotator cuff tear. We need to confirm her insurance details. She's stable but experiencing severe pain. However, her insurance appears inactive in our system, which is accurate as of last night, I confirmed. She was previously covered under your policy, but that has expired. The hospital will bill her directly, or she must provide alternative coverage information. There was a prolonged silence over the phone. The estimated cost for her treatment ranges from $35,000 to $47,000, contingent on whether surgery is necessary. You understand that this falls under her and the hospital's agreement. There's no further assistance required at this time. Upon hanging up, your wife called 17 times within the next 2 hours, which you did not answer, and she left voicemails growing increasingly confused, angry, and panicked, ending with a call at 8:52 a.m. It was only her crying at 10:15 a.m. Home arrived, found you sitting in the living room with coffee. She looked dreadful. Her left arm was in a sling, still wearing a hospital bracelet, eyes red from crying. "What did you do?" I asked, realizing she had been removed from our insurance. A text from you declared your freedom. You argued that free women handle their own health care coverage. Upon investigation, I discovered you'd suffered a torn rotator cuff, and the medical bills amounted to $40,000. I noticed $47,000 was withdrawn from our account shortly thereafter. Your face paled when I mentioned Coastal Dreams Realty, a Myrtle Beach property management company. It turned out you had bought a condo, which you didn't admit. Faced with this revelation, you left without responding. I hired Barrett Coleman, a high-profile divorce lawyer, to help me navigate the situation. He was familiar with my work for his firm 2 years ago. I explained that you had been removed from insurance before requiring medical attention and drained our joint account. He assured me that this could strengthen my case. We gathered all relevant documents, including bank statements and your text messages. Barrett filed for divorce on my behalf and requested a temporary restraining order on the remaining assets. You hired Randall Pierce, an aggressive and expensive lawyer known for his tough tactics. He filed an emergency motion claiming I had sabotaged your health care to force compliance in the divorce proceedings. The hearing was scheduled 3 weeks later, at which point I engaged a private investigator, Cortez, to uncover more details. Cortez discovered that you and Trevor Dane jointly purchased the condo for $380,000, using funds from our joint account and an undisclosed account in your name. He also found over 1,400 text messages between you two, including one on the night of your free woman message, which suggested a premeditated plan to drain our accounts, leave me paying for your health care until you settled with Trevor. At the emergency hearing, I admitted to removing you from insurance after your free woman text and discovery of the condo purchase. However, I emphasized that you had initiated the separation and drained our joint account before requiring medical attention. The judge found in my favor, denying your request for reinstatement of coverage and contempt charges. After the hearing, your lawyer tried to negotiate a settlement, but Barrett refused, citing fraud and vowing to pursue criminal charges. This caught Randall Pierce's attention, as he realized Barrett was not bluffing. The full divorce trial was 2 months later, during which additional evidence was uncovered, including Trevor's marriage to another woman, Sandra, who had no knowledge of the condo. She filed for her own divorce and joined our case as a witness. The trial lasted 3 days, with Judge Sullivan ultimately ruling in my favor based on overwhelming evidence. Systematically, Brooke intended to leave the marriage, divert shared assets for personal gain with her lover, and continue utilizing Harold Whitmore's employment perks post-departure. This constitutes fraud, breach of fiduciary duty, and dissipation of marital assets maliciously. The court orders Harold Whitmore to reclaim all withdrawn funds plus interest, cover his legal expenses and investigation fees. The Myrtle Beach property is to be sold, with 85% going to Harold Whitmore and 15% to Brooke Whitmore. This marriage is terminated. Brooke has no right to Harold's retirement accounts, future income, or benefits. Moreover, the financial aspects of this case are being referred to the district attorney for potential criminal investigation. Upon hearing this, Brooke began crying. Her lawyer placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. Judge Sullivan was not yet finished. In this court, you argued that your spouse was unkind for canceling your insurance. However, evidence suggests you intend to do the same to him, deplete his accounts, and leave him bankrupt while utilizing his benefits. The only distinction is he acted faster. The court finds no cruelty in his actions. This marriage ends due to adultery and fraud. The proceedings are over. After the sale of the condo for $392,000, I received a payout of $68,000 after settling the mortgage. The increase in value allowed me to surpass our initial amount. Trevor's wife stripped him bare in their divorce. He lost his home, half his pension, and his reputation. I hear he now resides in a rental apartment while Brooke lives with her sister. Brooke's shoulder surgery required $52,000 in medical bills, which she negotiated a 6-year payment plan for at $800 per month. The district attorney declined to prosecute, citing insufficient evidence of criminal intent. Nevertheless, the judgment stands, and Brooke remains liable for legal fees and investigator costs totaling $34,000. I moved on, sold the house burdened with too many memories, purchased a smaller property near work, began dating again cautiously. People ask if I feel remorseful about the insurance matter, but truthfully, no. She declared herself free at 11:47 p.m., and I honored her words. Sometimes freedom carries a higher price tag than expected, especially when you're plummeting without realizing you need a safety net. That's the story. If it strikes a chord with you, like and share this video. Someone in your life might benefit from hearing it. Thank you for watching Cheating Story Lab.